Life is a song. And what if your faith could help you hit the high notes? Grammy-nominated and Dove Award-winning artist Torrin Wells invites you into The High Note.
It's The High Note.
A podcast about real life, real struggles, and a real God who meets you right where you are. With honesty, insight, and encouragement, Torrin tackles the issues you're facing every day and helps you rise above the noise. If you're ready for a fresh perspective on your faith, tune in to The High Note podcast with Torrin Wells.
Welcome to The High Note.
Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970, The Answer.
That has a great beat, Alex. What's that called?
Well, first of all, we're not at a saloon tonight, but this is Easy Money by Suno Music Show YouTube.
Ah, but it's about easy money. Now, every political era has its defining soundbite, the line that captures a worldview so completely that you don't need the rest of the speech. And for Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, affectionately known as AOC, that line arrived during a recent podcast where she said this. Get ready for this, Mert. You can't earn $1 billion. You can get power, break rules, abuse labor laws, pay people less than what they're worth, but you can't earn that. There it is, her whole philosophy in one breath. She's claiming, the Looney Tune, that extreme wealth is inherently illegitimate, that success is presumptively exploitive. In her view, Mert, the American dream has a ceiling, and if you break through it, you must have cheated. Now, that's not a stray remark. It's not a slip. It's her worldview that she's been sharpening for years, and she's believing, or she's saying, billionaires don't exist because of ingenuity, risk, or value creation. They exist because the system is rigged, and the rich are rigging it. But here's the problem before you comment, Mert. The worldview is not merely economically illiterate. Her view is fundamentally anti-American. It rejects the very spirit that built this country, powered innovation, and lifted more people out of poverty than any other system in human history. And that's why this discussion isn't about AOC personally. It's about the ideology she's mainstreaming, an ideology that treats prosperity as theft, ambition as exploitation, and success as a moral strain. I think she's lost it. She's living in the wrong country. She's off kilter. What do you say?
Listen, you're a mean guy. You know that you could be a mean guy sometimes.
No, I'm pro-America, Bert. I'm pro-America. If that makes me a mean guy, so be it.
Listen, as somebody who's lived through the 2008 financial crisis and all the Bernie Madoff nonsense that took place, I understand exactly where she's coming from, because you've seen in those situations, in those tragic instances, millions of Americans suffer. Millions of Americans think that they had their dream home and it all of a sudden be snatched away from them because these billionaires and these millionaires and these corporations, they sold you out. Yes, you, the American people, they sold you out to make a quick buck, not because they hate you, not because they're mean, evil people, but because this is the spirit that America, in some ways, has adopted.
You're all over the place. You're all over the place.
No, I'm not. No,
because you mentioned Bernie Madoff. You mentioned Bernie Madoff. That was where you fell. Okay, this is where you fell down.
That's the problem.
Bernie Madoff was a thief. He was a fraudster.
That's the problem. You see what you're doing right there?
Yeah, no, but you brought up Bernie Madoff. You brought up Bernie Madoff. I didn't.
You're trying to distract the people from the real message.
That's what you brought up.
The real message is this: that mentality See, Bernie Madoff, he's evil. But there are minions around him who were still operating and doing things normally, and they were learning from this individual. And then you go into the banks who had to bail out this country and all this nonsense, and they knew exactly what was going on with these credit default swipes and people getting loans, and they didn't have a job. Well, they had a job, but it was flipping burgers at McDonald's.
Yeah,
and they got a 2-story house.
I understand. There's systemic failures, okay? And Madoff was a fraudster, so that you got to put that example on the side.
It's all fraudsters.
The question
whether it's intentional or
billionaires
unintentional.
have a right to exist. I think it's the American way that we reward capitalism, we reward entrepreneurialism, and if she's saying they don't have a right to exist, and that's the issue.
See, you know who also said that? Mom Donnie said that.
See, you guys got to.
Tommy's another kook. Okay,
you got to read
another
between the
wacko
lines,
who has, by the way, a public school system that's doing terribly as well, right?
See, you got to read between the lines because you guys are being too literal in this sense. Because she's not going to say, "Hey, let's go arrest billionaires." She's saying a lot of times
she's coming pretty close.
A lot of times. These billionaires and millionaires, in the pursuit to reach these levels, influence people to become unethical. This is why you have tragic. It is fair because it's very hard. It's very hard to create an iPhone or the next $1 billion or millionaire or $1 million technology and make yourself a millionaire. So a lot of people take shortcuts. Hold on a second. You're going to see this, especially as somebody who owns a business, when you have these little lawyers come into your institution and they're using shortcuts because they feel like they can take a shortcut.
We don't reward fraud, and shortcuts usually get people in trouble, Mert.
And frauds are usually discovered when it's too late. Because they
that has nothing to do with what we're talking about. This has nothing to do with the topic. Should billionaires have the right to exist, Mert? Keep it simple. The fact that there are dishonest billionaires, they're dishonest everything, okay?
How?
She is saying billionaires should not exist, period. We should not reward entrepreneurial spirit. That's nonsense. That's poppycock. Right, Alex? Come on.
But you can't earn that. Well, who'd say what they can and can't earn? By the way, if she's going to use it as a way to keep promoting high taxes, I mean, just drive everybody out of New York City.
Who's going to pay that? Yeah, who's going to pay that, right?
I can't believe you would say to me, your good friend, your pal, Mert, just keep it simple. We're two intellectuals here, and this is not a simple discussion we're having.
It is, because she's saying very simply, they don't have a right to exist, period.
That's what we call a soundbite.
You can't earn $1 billion. That's her quote.
If you were to discuss this with her, she would say, of course you can't get rid of billionaires. But I would not like to have so many billionaires because I see so many people struggling. It makes no sense to her, and I can understand why she feels like that. You see so many people suffering, as a woman especially, because women are very emotional and they get very attached to when they see suffering.
And now it's about women.
It makes logical sense why a woman who cares about people would say, we have all these billionaires running around and a lot of them are doing unethical stuff at some level and they're getting rich while you have people sitting at home and they can't even afford to properly bathe themselves because they don't have running water, electricity.
Do you hear this logical jump, Alex?
What a sweet woman. What a sweet woman. She's such a caring woman. She's a sweet what a sweet woman she is.
I knew you're a communist. I think a lot of listeners now know the truth.
No, I'm not a communist. I just understand where she's coming from.
I will agree with Mert on one thing, the unethical part. There are ways some of these people, and look, we saw Enron go down the tubes because of unethical behavior.
They're unethical. You know what? Come on, Alex. They're unethical poor people. They're unethical poor people. Okay, the Somalians in Minnesota that stole many, many millions of dollars allegedly for these phony child care and hospices. They were not rich people. They became rich.
And they used autism as a way to get money. And they faked it.
The system. But they're not rich. They were not rich people. So let's put frosters.
But they're rich now.
Yeah, that's right, because they stole it. because they stole it, Mert.
And by the way, they are going to jail, Mert. I don't know if you know this, but they're getting some prosecutions in on that.
We're going off on a tangent. We're not talking. There are poor people that are fraudsters too, Mert. That's the point. They're made. Maybe that's a failing of humanity where people, people steal, whether they're rich or poor. But that's not what we're talking about right now. Okay. She's saying that, in our country, this capitalist system, wealth can be created, okay? But she wants it redistributed, and that's the problem. This is an idea that separates the U.S. from every other economy that tried and failed to engineer equality by flattening ambition. See, she wants us all to be equal, but I don't know if that's good for our country. She rejects the premise. She sees the wealth as a fixed pie. If someone has more, someone must have less. But the American economy is not a pie. It's a bakery. And billionaires, they're the
it's
people.
A free-for-all. It's a free-for-all.
People
That's
who
what
figured
it
out
is.
how to feed millions. I'm sorry.
It's a free-for-all, and what she's seeing is what a lot of people see. They're taking advantage of those who might be a little slower to accumulate
it's not
their
about
wealth.
Exploitation.
Every corner you turn, somebody is trying to take money out your pocket. Just think about how many spam calls everybody's getting now, because there's constantly somebody trying to scam you.
Those are fraudsters, and many of them are from third world. And many of them are from third world countries. Many of them are from Nigeria. Many of them from India. They're from third world countries.
You gotta understand. You just brought up one of the most excellent examples you could have brought up about some people in America getting rich, scamming, and pulling the wool over our eyes under the guise of them doing.
That's your theory. That's your whole theory. Billionaires are somehow inherently dishonest. Is your theory, and that's pure poppycock. That's nonsense.
You just brought up that situation in Minnesota.
You did. I brought up Minnesota because you said only rich people cheat. No, I'm saying everyone cheats if they're dishonest. Dishonest people cheat.
What those people
whether they're rich or poor.
They became rich. So everything. So
that makes it okay. Your logic. See, even the audience is not following.
They're bullying you. They're bullying you right now because they're saying, "How could you come down on this sweet, innocent AOC?"
Because she's a dope. Because she's a dope. You know what?
She cares. She cares.
No, she doesn't care. She doesn't care.
She just cares.
Look,
she cares.
For her, AOC, billionaires equal illegitimate power. Wealth equals exploitation. Markets equal oppression. Success equals guilt. Innovation equals myth. And profit equals theft. You can't get dumber. You can't get dumber than that. Okay?
Well, don't say that.
You know what? It's going on, Mert? She needs billionaires to be villains because her political project requires that. She needs the enemies. She needs the enemies to build her movement because she's not going to say, hey, folks, the system is working pretty well. Let's improve it. No, she's going to say the system is bad and the winners are thieves and only we can fix it. This is nonsense, and I'm surprised, Mert, really surprised and disappointed that you fall for this.
You can try to restate the same thing a million different ways and not let me speak, but that's okay. That's what you do. I'm going to say this. AOC, because now I'm going to restate something. AOC does not need billionaires to be an enemy for any ulterior motive. It's a legitimate point she's making because she... living in Brooklyn, the Bronx, those areas that she represents, when you see some of the poverty that you got going on in these areas, and then you look at Wall Street and some of these areas in Manhattan where billionaires, they got a thing called Billionaires Row in Manhattan, and then you have areas like the Bronx, dirt poor. Why isn't some of that money trickling down to those areas? Because I bet you it's a lot of those people who work in Midtown Manhattan and work on Wall Street, not as bankers, but as janitors. As the office cleanup type people. Those people are suffering while these billionaires sit back in their, their palatial mansions, skyscrapers, whatever you want to, call it. And AOC, as a sweet woman, this is a great trait of women.
Please.
Women feel deeper than men, because I understand where you're coming from.
Now you turn this into a sexist issue, really?
I understand where you're coming from. As a man, I'm saying, if I can get rich, nobody better take my money, because I earned it and did it the right way.
I don't know where he's going with this.
But as a woman, I know you don't, because it's hard for you to understand some of these things.
Yeah,
but as a woman,
that's right.
she has compassion, and you need to understand that compassion makes people say things that you might not agree with. It makes no sense while you're coming down on her, calling her a dope and all this nonsense.
Tell you why.
Because she has a heart.
Oh, it's nothing to do with
that.
that.
This is a political stunt she's
pulled. That's right. Thank you, Alex. Finally. Look, Mert, I agree that critiquing inequality is legitimate. That is legitimate. Debating tax policy, that's legitimate. Questioning corporate behavior, you keep referring to fraud, that's legitimate. But her rhetoric, Mert, crosses the line, in my opinion. When you say something like, and this is her quote, "You can't earn $1 billion," end quote, you're not critiquing inequality, you're criminalizing success. And that's what I have a problem with, okay? Because once you delegitimize wealth, delegitimize
I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Once you delegitimize wealth, you can justify anything. Punitive taxes, confiscation, forced redistribution, regulatory harassment, political targeting. This is not a slippery slope, Mert. It's a historical pattern. And I see what she's setting us up for, and it's not good.
Well, if she would have said millionaires, she would have a point, but she said billionaires. So technically, you could get up to 999 million, and you wouldn't qualify.
Is that where you stop? So you're a good guy if you have 999 million?
Exactly.
Oh, that's nonsense.
You should appreciate that, because you're a lawyer. You should appreciate technicalities like that, being a great lawyer that you are. So she's not saying millionaire, she said a billionaire.
Hey, Mert, you know what, Mert? Look, just like in New York, where they had this, pied-à-terre tax for the luxury mansions and luxury estates. It was originally $5 million. It went down to $1 million because they figured they could get more money by bringing it down to $1 million. Don't worry, nobody is safe. Nobody is safe with AOC. So the guy with the guy or gal with 999 million, not safe for long. That's my theory, okay?
Well, they'll be safe long enough, because I don't think billionaires are going anywhere anytime soon, because before they give up their money, they're going to have somebody elected in her place. Trust me, if she makes enemies of too many billionaires, she'll be up out of there, because don't get them on the wrong side. However, she is a woman. Women care about poverty and people, struggling and all that type of good stuff that men sometimes overlook. And that's what you got to understand. That's where she's coming from, and I can see that. Even though I don't think that billionaires should be banned, because I agree with you on that, I can see where she's coming from, and you, as a smart millionaire as you are, should be able to see that.
I'm not a millionaire. I'm living off of my Social Security, and I barely get by. I barely get by on the Social Security. Okay, look, this anti-billionaire worldview is not just wrong, Mert. It's corrosive. It's defeatist. It's anti-aspirational, and again, it's anti-American, because America is not a nation, or nor should it be, a one that punishes success. It's a nation that produces it. And the moment we forget that, Mert, we stop being the country the world once looked to as proof that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. And that, my friends, would be a catastrophe. Now, here's something that ain't catastrophic. You're listening to episode 98 of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. This is Lucas Ferraro with me in the studio. You heard from him all night. It's the great Mertinator, Mert Roberts, and working the board. Oh, he's got a great podcast. It's called One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. Is none other than our producer-engineer, Alex Garrett. Now, when we come back after the break, we'll be joined by Judd, Saul, an award-winning documentary filmmaker, entrepreneur, and missionary whose life was transformed on a 2011 trip to Nigeria, where he witnessed the brutal reality facing persecuted Christian communities. Me, Mert, Alex, all of us at AM 970 will return after these quick messages. Don't go away.
Sing it! The easy money man making dollars like riding the bike. The easy money man making dollars like riding the bike.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to NewmanFerrara.com. That's NewmanFerrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
250 years of freedom. And AM 970 is ready to celebrate. From the Founding Fathers to today, America's story is one worth honoring. And this June, AM 970 is doing just that, right here in the heart of New York City. On Tuesday, June 23rd, from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m., join AM 970 and the Times Square Alliance as Joe Piscopo, Kevin McCullough, Christine Nicholas, Arthur Idella, and other top broadcasters take to the airwaves live, honoring 250 years of the greatest nation on earth. No tickets, no registration. Just show up, soak it in, and celebrate. Then, on Wednesday, June 24th at 6 p.m., the party moves inside for an unforgettable evening. Patriots, pasta, and Piscopo. Join SNL superstar and our own esteemed morning man, Joe Piscopo, plus American tenor Chris Macchio for a night of patriotic live performance and Italian cuisine in the legendary Sinatra Room at Carmine's in Times Square. It's one night, limited seats, and pure American spirit. Seating is limited for Patriots, pasta, and Piscopo. So reserve your tickets today. Text CELEBRATE to 94878 or visit am970theanswer.com. Mark your calendars and get ready to celebrate America. Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, add evenings of conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Put leftovers in shallow containers and get them into the refrigerator as soon as possible. Roughly 3,000 Americans will die from food poisoning this year, but you can keep your family safer by chilling food promptly and properly. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov. Brought to you by the USDA, HHS, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
What is the name of that one, Alex?
All right, this is Metal Missionary by Monkey Bandito.
Metal Missionary. Interesting choice. Judge Saul is a family man. He's an award-winning documentary filmmaker, entrepreneur, and a missionary whose life changed on a single trip to Nigeria back in 2011. Invited by his grandfather, Judd witnessed firsthand the danger, loss, and unshakable faith of persecuted Christian communities. That experience placed a burden on his heart, one he and his wife Sherry have carried with their 5 children ever since. For more than a decade, Judd has returned to Nigeria 3 to 4 times a year, serving on the ground and standing with those facing escalating violence. When he saw that attacks were outpacing the few missions that he was able to respond, he founded Equipping the Persecuted, a locally led rapid response and prevention ministry built with pastors and missionaries tested by fire. Today, Judge Saul's work is defined by conviction, courage, and a commitment to protect the vulnerable before tragedy strikes. Welcome to the program, Judd.
Hey, thanks for having me on, sir.
And thank you. God bless you for your work, and we really do appreciate. I, for one, do appreciate what you're doing. But we're going to start. Merton wants to start off the questioning, so I'm going to defer to my co-host.
Yes, I have a very simple question. Some might even consider this a dumb question, but you'd be the perfect person to answer and educate me on this. How do y'all find out about these little pockets in these areas where this stuff is taking place, especially in places like Africa? Because these are not areas where you have a strong presence of media and cameras and accessibility, where people are blasting this all over the place. So how do you even find out about this stuff? Because today it's a lot easier, but you were talking about your father was
grandfather in 2011.
Or grandfather. So especially back in those times where it definitely might have been a little bit tougher to get cameras and information to these areas, how do you find out about this stuff in the first place?
Well, I went there first in 2011, and as I kept on going back, we saw the attacks increase, and virtually no one back in America, let alone the rest of the world, was finding out about what's going on. And one of the things I realized is that, and it's pretty crazy, is that I found out that all the news coming out of Nigeria gets filtered through Al Jazeera. So when you have radical Islamists that are killing Christians all over Nigeria, what gets in the news is that some villagers were killed by unknown gunmen or bandits.
Right.
And they play it out like it's just a tribal skirmish. Well, the world doesn't care about tribal skirmishes. Nothing ever gets out there. But when you have the country that uses Al Jazeera as the main source of news coming out of the country, well, that's why no one else in America, hears about this. But when I'm on the ground in Nigeria, here we're seeing the mass graves, we're seeing the dead bodies, we're seeing entire villages that have been eradicated, and no one knows about it. And this is why, with Equipping the Persecuted, our organization, we spent a lot of time, money, and resources with journalists on the ground going into these areas and going in ourselves and documenting what's going on there.
That makes a lot of sense, because you can hear the same thing, but if you put it a certain way, like you just said, a villager issue versus a Christian issue, now we don't all of a sudden pay attention the same way we would if it was an attack on Christians. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like Americans are in the wrong for not being able to see past that, or do you feel like we've been tricked because we had faith in some organizations that might not have the best intentions of Christianity?
No, I think a lot of Americans have been bamboozled,
right?
Especially with information, and then there are people and Americans that think there are certain ministries that would naturally respond to these things, and I'm just telling you that it doesn't exist. That's why I created our organization. You have a lot of organizations that will show up, get a lot of nice pictures, put a tiny drop in the bucket, put a little Band-Aid on the situation, and then leave.
Right.
But we wanted to create an organization that's there consistently, not only dealing with, just not only rendering aid after the attacks, but we're working on ways to try to prevent the attacks.
You know, Judd, over the last couple of years in particular, the focus has shifted, and I think the awareness has increased, which is the good news, that Christians are being persecuted throughout the world. But the Nigeria situation has escalated in terms of what we're seeing in the news about people being killed because of their religious beliefs. My question for you, though, where's the Pope? Has the Pope failed Nigerian Christians? Because he, I think, should be the most vocal advocate from these members of his flock, and he's relatively passive and relatively quiet about it. I think there should be more advocacy.
Well, I'm just going to be honest. I see the Pope hanging out with Muslim imams and trying to build bridges with Islam instead of speaking out against the millions of Christians that have been displaced, let alone the 100,000 Christians that have been murdered in Nigeria by Muslims. But for some reason, this Pope would rather be politically correct than speak the truth. And there are entire Catholic communities so we're a non-denominational organization. We work with every denomination. And I can tell you that there are large swaths of Catholics that are suffering, living in total abject poverty, that have been removed from their homes, and the Pope has said nothing on their behalf. And even Catholic bishops that I know for a fact have sold out to the Nigerian government refuse to acknowledge what's going on to their own people.
Well, shame on them. Shame on them, and shame on the Pope, because the people are dying, and the blood is on his hands, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, there are people, if they had the willpower, and believe me, the Catholic Church, the Pope, if they had the willpower, they could change the situation overnight, but they are not.
Yeah, I think that you already told us the reason, and it's truly unfortunate. Now, walk us through the moment you decided to found Equipping the Persecuted. What gap did you see that no one else was filling? And I think you've already answered it, but I think our listeners should be more sensitive to the importance of what your organization does.
The whole thing is I look at the situation, just look at the whole thing, and for years, organizations that work with persecuted Christians and other ministries are like, we can't get involved in the politics. We can't get involved in self-defense. And I said, where? Where in the Bible does it say this? It doesn't. It doesn't say this anywhere. And if this was happening to my own community, I would love people to come in and help me fend off the wolves that are coming into my camp and raping and killing my children. I would like some people to help me out. Why can't we do it for our brothers and sisters in Nigeria? So we come at it with the situation of, we work with village security teams. I can't give them guns. We can't give them weapons, but we can give them training. We can give them intelligence gathering skills. And since we really implemented these efforts over the last few years, we have saved thousands of lives because we have taught them basic security awareness and skills. If you know an attack's going to come, we evacuate the women and children. Who puts up the first line of defense? And this has been very effective, but it hasn't been done before. And we're seeing the fruits of our efforts.
What about security, the armed security? Isn't there a way to, like police, isn't there a way to help protect these communities?
And we're teaching locals and local village security teams how to do these things. And this was a foreign concept before, because other missions organizations were like, well, we're just going to come in, we'll give them a little bit of aid, give them some Bibles, and leave. And we say, well, let's give them the tools and the skills that they could use maybe to defend themselves.
That's right. How does your organization differ from traditional Western-run missions? We only have about a minute or so. We have to take a commercial, but you'll come back after the commercial. But you want to start to answer that?
Yeah, so what separates us is that we engage on the ground. We do our humanitarian work. We engage with security things, but we also engage politically. We've been advocating on behalf of persecuted Christians in the United States to Congress, the State Department, and trying to get intervention and worldwide intervention into what's going on. And a lot of Christian organizations just don't get involved in these things. And we're like, we would rather solve the problem than just continuing to let it happen and take pictures and raise money.
Amen. Amen. Look, Judd, we have to take a quick commercial break, but have no fear. Judge Saul will be rejoining us after these quick commercial messages. For more info about Judd and his organizations, please visit equippingthepersecuted.org and truthnigeria.com. Did I get that right, Judd? Judd, equippingthepersecuted.org, truthnigeria.com. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we'll have the links posted on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Mert, Alex, and I certainly hope you'll stay tuned. Stay tuned because Judge Saul returns after the break, and he's bringing more heat than a Nigerian afternoon.
In the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 55 East 59th Street, New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate. Hi, it's Joe Piscopo. Have you heard what is being said about gold and silver? Jamie Dimon just said gold can easily go to $5,000 to $10,000. Bank of America's strategist Michael Harnett said $6,000 gold in the spring. And now multiple reports are noting a historic squeeze in the physical silver market, which is why silver has been outperforming gold this year. Yet both are significantly outperforming the U.S. stock indexes. This is why many people are calling my friends at Landmark Capital. When you call, you get a free information packet about gold and silver. If you have a 401k or IRA, you will also learn how to take advantage of physical gold and silver in your retirement without a tax liability. Give Landmark Capital a call today at 844-604-2575. That's 844-604-2575 or landmarkgold.com. That's landmarkgold.com.
We love bringing you products that improve your life. Well, this product can save your life. There are approximately 5,000 choking deaths in the U.S. each year. One child dies every 5 days from choking. Did you know older adults are at an increased risk of choking? Yes. And lodged food is the main cause. Ever pop small, bite-sized food in your mouth like peanuts, grapes, or popcorn? Those foods that people eat by the handful can get overloaded in the mouth, which can cause a choking episode. LifeVac is a simple rescue device that can change a life in a choking emergency. It's non-invasive and easy to use, and one kit fits the whole family. If you have a young child in your family or a senior relative living alone, I strongly recommend you visit the LifeVac website today at lifevac.net. View the videos demonstrating its ease of use. LifeVac works in 3 simple steps: place, push, and pull. The LifeVac device dislodges the obstruction and suctions out the food or object. It's that simple. And it can be self-administered. LifeVac.net, made in the USA and FDA registered.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
We've been speaking with Judd Saul. He's an award-winning documentary filmmaker and frontline missionary who has spent more than a decade working inside Nigeria's most dangerous conflict zones. He's the founder of a very important organization. Please check it out, Equipping the Persecuted, and he's the driving force behind Truth Nigeria, delivering rapid response aid, security training, and on-the-ground reporting for persecuted Christian communities under attack. For more information about Judd and his great organizations, please visit equippingthepersecuted.org, truthnigeria.com. We'll have the links on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Now, Judd, our producer engineer, Alex Garrett, I'd like to start off with a question for you. Go ahead, Alex.
All right, so the support for these persecuted Christians, does it change by administration? Like if a Democrat's in there, do they have as much effort towards supporting and helping them as a Republican administration? I mean, you deal with the political side, so I have that question right off the bat.
The answer is absolutely not. The Democrats have actually exacerbated the situation and made things worse in Nigeria. And when we, have a Republican president, Republican administration, they actually start laying pressure on the Nigerian government to try to do things. But, the Biden administration and the Obama administration said all this killing is happening because of climate change.
Oh, ridiculous. Ridiculous.
So, I'm not kidding. I went and I met with people, our folks at the U.S. Embassy in Abuja, Nigeria, and they all looked at me with a straight face and said that this killing really is because of climate change. My jaw just dropped. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was hearing.
How do they rationalize that?
Dealing with.
How do they rationalize that? That's nonsense. But how do they rationalize it? Or do they even bother?
Well, it's more comfortable to live in total, ignorance than to acknowledge the truth that's happening 50 kilometers outside the U.S. Embassy. And they really honestly believe that with a straight face because they could never really acknowledge that radical Islamists want to turn Nigeria into a caliphate and kill every Christian in the country.
Well, that's true for a lot of places around the world, my friend. It's not just Nigeria, but I know our focus is Nigeria today, and it's truly unfortunate what's happening there. Mert, you had a follow-up or a question?
Well, yeah, I'm sitting back and I'm listening, and I'm thinking, so the organization you're a part of has become more than just a traditional church organization. What was the process of gaining all these skills that you have? Because it sounds like what you're saying is we don't just go, well, you are saying this, we have more to offer than just Bibles and, a couple barrels of food or whatever. We're trying to reshape how they actually operate, and we're trying to, and this actually goes outside the scope of what a religion institution would have to do, and like no American church has to worry about defending themselves. So
although I don't know about that. With increasing frequency here in the U.S., churches are under attack. Churches are under attack here in the U.S.
You understand what I'm saying? I don't want us to get off track. You understand what I'm saying? This is a much bigger scale of warfare we're talking about. So how has your organization been able to accomplish that?
By empowering and training locals.
But I'm saying, who do you have on your team that's making this possible? Because going to seminary school ain't teaching you how to defend yourself. So, what type of people do you have on your team?
We have Christians that specialize in these things. That are that have offered their services, and we bring them in and we give trainings. I don't have the military skills. I'm not a military guy, but I just look at a situation with common sense and go, well, maybe if we applied some solutions here, this could work. And there are people that are skilled enough to do those things.
So what's that process like? Because it's one thing for thinking, and then to actually going over in there and saying, you know what, guys, I think you guys need to learn how to fight. What is that like?
It's going in and bringing people that know how to do these things and letting them meet the local village security teams, see the areas and look at it and analyze and say, here's some basic things we could put in place that would save a lot of lives. And then once we get the plan, we figure it out, then we start implementing the plan.
Now, when you're implementing these plans, is there ever any concern of, well, we got to make sure that we're actually doing this in a Christian way? Because how can you justify, because a lot of people, as you said earlier, think that Christians aren't allowed to defend themselves. So what's the process like of getting Christians to understand it is okay to defend yourself?
Well, we have a biblical mandate to protect our families, to protect, what God has given us. And in a situation like these people are dealing with, they're being walked over with thugs with AK-47s and sophisticated, military weaponry. And, the Christians are left defenseless by their government. So I practice a theology called the doctrine of lesser magistrates, and we encourage that same doctrine in Nigeria, which is if a higher government level isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then a lower government official should be standing up and doing the right thing.
Amen. And when you go over there, do these Muslim terrorists try to attack you, or do they feel like the Americans are here? Let's wait until they leave, and then let's go in. Or are y'all under the same fire and scrutiny?
When we go, we're under threat. We are definitely under threat. We have to travel with armed security, and it's a risk. It's a risk every time we go. But this is what we're called to do. It's what I'm called to do, and I'll do it till the day I die.
And bless you for it. What's one story from the field that still keeps you up at night, my friend?
Well, just a few weeks ago, we found out information of when an attack was going to occur and where. We notified the Nigerian government. Nigerian government didn't do anything like they have done. We've issued 180 terror alerts in the last 2.5 years with 93% accuracy. Nigerian government does nothing. But what happened in this most recent one 3 weeks ago was they took our warning very seriously. The locals banded together. They evacuated women and children. They banded together and thwarted off a major attack, saving thousands of lives in one setting.
Wow.
And if they wouldn't have taken us seriously and taken our alerts and done this is everything we trained them to do coming together in one setting just a few weeks ago. And that gave me a sigh of relief. It says, what we're doing is successful. And it's happened a few other occasions, but this was a major onslaught, major attack that they were planned, and it was thwarted.
Oh, wow. For listeners hearing about this for the first time, Judd, what is the single most urgent need right now in Nigeria? What can they do? How can they help?
Right now, the biggest urgent need is what most people don't talk about is there's 6 million Christians who have been displaced from their homes. They're starving to death. They are dying of malnutrition and disease as we speak right now, and they're getting no help. And we're using what limited resources we have on that end to help these people stay alive. But also, we're putting a lot more effort, a lot more resources into the security side of things. So we still have to do the humanitarian side. People are still needing food, aid, and help, otherwise they're going to die. And then on the other hand, we still need to boost our security. And then they can go to our website, clickingthepersecuted.org, support us. But then the second thing I ask everybody to do is contact their congressman, their senator, and tell them to intervene on behalf of persecuted Christians in Nigeria right away.
And, I'm sorry for bringing this up again, Judd, but this is something that troubles me. What about the Pope? Has your organization tried to reach out to him, the Vatican? Yes, go ahead.
No, we have a lot of Catholic friends. We have people that have tried going up those channels consistently for years and have gotten nowhere. You have certain Catholics and some Catholic organizations that are, coming around, that are speaking out against this, but the highest up, the Pope and the people underneath him are doing nothing. And they have tried and tried and tried. People have gone to the Vatican over and over and over again, pleading their case. There's been Nigerian bishops, brave ones that risk their lives, going to the Vatican and get nothing.
Not acceptable. But unfortunately, Judd, we've run out of time. For more information about Judd and his organizations, please visit and make a contribution, equippingthepersecuted.org and truthnigeria.com. We'll have the links posted on our website, shakeitofflive.com. Thank you so much for coming on the program, Judd. God bless you and keep up the great work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, my friends, that concludes show number 98. May I hear an amen?
Amen.
Special thanks to the Murdinator, Murd Roberts, my co-host. 98 amazing episodes, 196 hours, I don't believe it, of live entertainment. If you think that's easy, you try it. And to Alex Garrett, thank you. Couldn't have done this show without you. Check out his 5-star rated podcast, One Leg Up with Alex Garrett. And to everyone behind the scenes at AM 970, Laura Schaefer, Matthew Samberlin, Joe Sabilla, Frank Volpe, Ryan Pagano, just to name a few, our sincerest thanks. We couldn't do it without you. Before we go, I'd like to remind everyone to check out my movies. They're streaming everywhere, and my latest hit is Manor of Darkness. It's an eerie time loop horror. You'll find it on Amazon, Google Play, and YouTube. In January, the New York Times selected Manor of Darkness one of the top 5 movies you should stream. So what are you waiting for? Go check it out. I also have other movies too while you're at it. Help Make Up 5,000 Space Aliens and Children of the Pines. They're all award-winning films. Now, if you're listening to us live, next up, Culinary Confidential with my great friend Christina Cates. I love her program. If you're a foodie or in the hospitality industry, stay tuned. You can't miss it. Join us next week when we'll have more controversial topics, more special guests just for you. Same time, same place. Ciao, ciao.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
Life is a song. And what if your faith could help you hit the high notes? Grammy-nominated and Dove Award-winning artist Torrin Wells invites you into The High Note.
It's The High Note.
A podcast about real life, real struggles, and a real God who meets you right where you are. With honesty, insight, and encouragement, Torrin tackles the issues you're facing every day and helps you rise above the noise. If you're ready for a fresh perspective on your faith, tune in to The High Note podcast with Torrin Wells.
Welcome to The High Note.
Available now wherever you get your podcasts.